Oh, that's a great question. Well, from a scholarly standpoint, you could say 66 books, 39 in the Old Testament, 27 in the New. But I have a different answer. I think it's God's love letters to us. I think the Bible is the history of people through the centuries who were seeking spiritual answers, and they found their God because they were really listening and reaching out, and often in desperate situations. And, when you grow up in a place like Tulsa, Oklahoma, tornadoes are a very, very normal part of life. Every March, I remember we could smell the sulfur smell, and we knew that was the signal to get into the Kelly's basement because a funnel was coming. So I grew up, even as a young child, realizing life was quite dangerous. And then my father passed on from issues related to World War II. He was a Marine. I grew up where life wasn't very easy. I didn't know it at the time, we were very modest in our economic station, but my mother gave us this love of the Bible. And every night she would read a psalm to us, whether it was the 91st Psalm or the 23rd Psalm. And as I got older, she had us memorize them. And as I began to travel after college by myself to Europe, I went to school in Greece. It was a pretty radical thing to do I was 21 years old. And I ran into some really serious issues of being alone as a young woman. And what one could say dangerous issues. The Bible was very real to me. And I began to think, um, this is not any kind of academic text. This is God speaking to me. And that's why it's called the living word, because it's not just words on a page. It's how people just like you and me, maybe different, clothing, but people like you and me who had very, very real issues that were reaching out from the depth of their heart, saying, I need a lot of help and I need it right now. And I have had so many cases with family members and myself of real life and death emergencies. And when you get answers, there is no substitute for that. And you build your life on it. And you can't just hope that other people get that. That has to come, that's between you and God. It's the most personal communication there is. But the point is that I was in those texts. I knew them enough and understood the history and the background enough that I wanted to read them. That's why I started Bible Roads. I think people want to turn to the Bible. It's just like reading Greek, only in English. And the irony is, it was written in Greek in the New Testament, but it's almost impenetrable if you don't understand something of the stories. So I'll just give you a tiny example. There's a great process by which Jesus taught that a professor friend of mine calls about poetry picture thinking. So if you think about it, if you're a spiritual leader, how on earth do you describe God to a people who know cows and farms and sheep and, the most basic things, growing wheat? Will you use pictures, metaphors, similes, parables? And that's exactly what Jesus did. So one of his wonderful pictures in the book of John is he says, I am the door of the sheep. Well, one of the joys of traveling to biblical lands is you get to see Bedouins today all over the Middle East, particularly in Israel. And one of the things you realize is there are three-sided pens everywhere. Well, the fourth side is much smaller because the shepherd lays down once he's gotten his sheep in. And it's to protect the sheep. They quiet down. They know their shepherd. They recognize his voice. And when that shepherd lays across that opening of that pen, they go to sleep for the night. Can you imagine a more extraordinary metaphor for us, the wolves of our lives? We're protected. So those are the reasons I love to study the Bible and love to share it. It makes it all come very alive. I don't need to know what the wolves are in your life, but I bet that you've got them. I just want people to know where their answers are. So if you open up the text, they'll fill it in with whatever their need is.